What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. This video is for the original OG light-skinned mixed mulatto black person that's passing for white. All right, because listen, I'm light-skinned, okay? I'm light-skinned with hippocampus eyes, all right? And I don't have C4 hair, all right? And so what that means is I've always been misidentified as everything else but just regular black. All right, I'm Cambodian, I'm Latino, I'm everything. All right, so there's a spectrum to this light skinness, but some of you light skinned folk, you light skinned for real, because you mixed, right? Your mix is first generation. You see, my mix is several generations back. All right, my slave master Fletcher, all right, the white man named Fletcher from England by way of Scandinavia. All right, that white man who owned my ancestors, that white guy, that was several generations, ago, but you guys are like, your mama's white, or your daddy's white. Most time is your daddy's black. That's most time is your daddy black. All right, sometimes your mama black. We can talk about that, but most of the times it's your daddy's is black. Y'all know why. All right, but the thing is, throughout history, mixed people have gotten the shit end of both ends of the stick. All right, because you still black. All right. And you're going to get treated black. You may get to stay in the house, but the house wasn't necessarily safer than the field. Because when you was light-skinned and black, and you was in that house, massa had access, all right? He didn't have to go outside, walk down the field, down the cornfield to get to the slave quarters in order to take advantage of that dark-skinned field black woman. No. What he did was he went downstairs to your chambers, right? Because he purchased you from your daddy, all right, at that other slave plantation, because your daddy raped your mama, all right? Your daddy's that other white slave plantation owner, all right, back in the day, all right? And so they used to buy their friends' daughters and thems and take advantage of them in the house, all right? Same goes with the boys. The men, white men, they took advantage of them little light-skinned boys too, because we all know, white men are very much interested in children of both sexes. As if I'm not sure if anybody's ever just paid attention to like Western art, but if you go down Washington D.C. and you just look up at some of these buildings and the artwork that's on some of these buildings, and if you go to France, England, any other European, Anglo-Saxon, barbarian place, and you look at the artwork, you notice there's a whole bunch of men receiving sexual, pleasures from children, sculpted on their most important buildings, including the Greeks, who, by the way, they're not the Greeks. The white people that we see today, they're not the Greeks, but they're still, Greeks are European-esque, right? But they're not the Greeks. But still, even the Greeks and the Romans are known in their artwork to depict men performing homosexual activities in a pedophile way to children. And if you know anything about history, it used to be standard for a well-to-do Greek, a well-to-do Roman, to have a little boy as a sexual toy, until he reached maturity, and then he's given a couple coins, and he's off to be in a pariah of the community, and that white man would go collect another little 12-year-old boy to enjoy him until he hits adolescence. I mean, it's all there. And the art, it's all there. It's just, I'm not sure if we're like, you go down DT, you see like, why is that grown man getting fellatio from that clear child on the building for all to, it's like shit that we don't pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's where a lot of these mulattoes come from. Mixed mulattoes. And the first mulattoes are the Arabs, by the way. All right, the Arabs are mulattoes. They're just black Africans mixed with Asians, mixed with white people, right? And Latinos ain't nothing but a bunch of Native Americans mixed with white people, mixed with black people. It's the same combo. European, black, Asian mix. There's only three different types of groups of people on the planet. It's just several combinations in different eras of which they mixed in different places for different reasons, right? But mixed people have always had an issue because, especially the black-white ones. Now, I know there's other mixed groups. See, these mixed people, right? They're at a crux, right? Because they can't identify. Well, some of them choose to identify with one of the main branches of races that are, constructed. But for argument's sake, you know what I mean, right? Then you got those that's like in the middle. They kind of want to be their own thing. It's a very confusing thing because they still get treated. If they're black and white, you still get treated like a nigga by the white folk, and you're reminded that you're a nigga by the white folk, even your white family, right? And then you go to the black side, and you're constantly reminded that you're not all the way black by a bunch of Africans in America that's also not all the way black. But because you're a first generation, you got to crack jokes. We're going to make fun of your light-skinnedness. All right, we're going to make fun of your white passingness, right? You're not going to be a member of the club all the way sometimes, or so you feel. Because, obviously a lot of mixed people feel rejected by both black and white, right? Which got to be a terrible thing. While still getting treated like a black person, being called white without white privilege. That's got to be difficult, all right? And I understand that that's a difficult thing that neither the black people or all the fully black people or fully white people seem to take in consideration when using the mixed people, as fodder or sidekicks of the main villains or whatnot. All right. But anyway, without further ado, let's put some respect on these mixed people. Their names and shit. Understand they got the same struggle. They got extra struggle. They got a different flavor of struggle. I recognize that struggle. There's a black person who's experienced being questioned about his complete blackness, right? I empathize with mixed mulattoes, right? Even though I know exactly where I come from. All my people, like I'm very secure in my Africanness, right? But I understand, how, some of these people feel, right? So I just want to let you know, as an African, I will never question any African that says they're African, no matter what their phenotype looks like, because I'm smart enough to know that every phenotype on this planet comes from an African. Like, for instance, there's no such thing as an Afro-Asiatic person. To me, that's one of the most racist shits ever created. There's no such thing as an African with Asian eyes. That doesn't exist anywhere in history, period. Because what you call Asian eyes are African eyes. Hippocampus is an African feature given to the people we call Asians. Every feature on this planet is an African feature that can be found natively in Africa. Whether it be the hair texture, color complexion, nose shape, lip, every single phenotype that exists outside of Africa is a small Costco's BJ Sam's Club sample size of the totality of phenotypes on the planet. Africa really represents the different groups of people on the planet. Asia and Europe represents two sample types of an African, group of phenotypical Africans in Africa. Keep that in mind. Everybody outside of Africa are only represented by two different distinct groups that left Africa out of the many that didn't leave Africa. All right, remember that. But let's put some respect on these mixed mulattoes, names, and let's listen to what they got to say about white passing and being mixed in this world that's, identity just means everything. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
It's so funny being mixed and dead ass, like coming from a family that is majority black folks. Growing up in the hood, growing up around nothing but black folks, right? But then I'm white passing, so I get around white people and they think I'm their type of white people. Yeah, and when white people feel like they're safe, they gonna let you know that they feel like you're a safe space. And you know what I do? Bitch, you better shut the fuck up talking to me. Because, bitch, I'm one of them.
I didn't really realize how racist some people are until I'm in an all-white space and people don't realize that I'm mixed.
I have so many stories of growing up being biracial and white people just saying anything they wanted to say in front of me.
I hear racist stuff all the time. It's time to expose. One time I was with this group of white people, and the girls were talking about this girl who had jungle fever. And this white girl goes, "Isn't it a shame to see our race mixing with another? What's going to happen to our white purity?"
About the time that a hate group was started at my high school called the NHRA. I'll let you guys try and guess what that stood for. And my friends were curious as to why I was completely pissed off because I'm not full black.
I am Mexican, full-blooded. And one time I was dating this guy, and his grandpa just moved to a different house. And he said, yeah, I grew up over here. And I'm like, oh, did you? He's like, yeah, it's really different now. I'm like, how so? He's like, well, a lot of Mexicans and blacks live over here now.
I grew up in an extremely racist part of Louisiana. For instance, when I was in beauty school, going to one of my friend's house, and her mom asking me, like, does it gross you out to touch N-word's hair?
I was at a pool party one time and this guy asked me, what are you? And I was like, well, I'm mixed. And he asked me with what? And I was like, black and white. And he was like, so you're a half N-word. And then he like turned to his wife and his whole family and was like, guys, guess what? Cole's a half N-word. And like everybody's laughing.
There was another time where I was at a party and the only other black person there left early. Right after he left, one of the white dudes there proceeded to say the N-word. Not even in a song or anything, just said it out loud. When I confronted him about it, he said, what? He's not here anymore. Little did he know that I'm a double agent.
Right now I look mixed as because my hair is done, but normally pretty white passing. If you worked in film before, you know like 11 hours is a normal day. A white passing Hispanic person had overheard one of the main actresses' distress cries to the director. Let's call the actress Biffany Babish. Miss Babish says, my feet hurt, it's time to wrap. One more take. Miss Babish says, okay, well then you go and pay for my medical bills. And this white Hispanic had the audacity to say, ooh, I'm so glad we have Miss Babish to go ghetto on them. I said, ghetto? She said, yeah, black.
Or talking about going to clean my car and another friend's mom saying, oh, you gotta go get the N-words to clean it. N-words are so good at cleaning cars. They know how to clean cars so good. N-words, they're so good at cleaning.
He's like, you don't want to live in a neighborhood that has a lot of Mexicans and blacks. And I said, you don't? Because why would you want to live in a neighborhood that has really good food and really awesome people? My boyfriend at the time didn't say anything. Thanks, Kyle.
There was another time where we were talking about an opposing basketball team. We were talking about why the team was so good, and somebody goes, they're only good because they let all the charity cases on the team. There were no white people on this team. I'm sure I'm not the only white passing person with these kinds of stories.
So I get questions all the time about my race, and I really enjoy bringing awareness to biracial people, especially people who often get mistaken for as solely white. Now, I know that I'm very ambiguous looking, and so it's really easy for me to come off as, you know, anything but just white. But like also in my family, I'm like the most white looking because of my hair texture, and so when I'm around like my siblings or, you know, I'm showing pictures, like people are just caught off guard. So why do I feel the need to discuss? It's my platform, it's my race, it's not something that I can just let go or get over, you know? Like I'm mixed, I'm black and I'm white, and I'm proud, and I like to talk about it. There ain't nothing wrong with that. My platform is for real conversations, okay? Like, this is my platform, this is my social media, and some days, you know, if I want to talk about my race, then I'm gonna talk about my race. And I really appreciate the compliment. That's really sweet. Also, it's really unique. Like, being biracial, being mixed is not the same as being just white. It's not the same as being just black. Like, it's a really unique and interesting life, you know what I mean? Any mixed person will tell you that, especially the ones that, you know, are like white passing, I guess. But at the same time, I know I'm not white passing, you know what I mean? But anyways, it's just interesting, and I like to talk about it. And I made the video talking about my race literally because I was inspired by another girl who shared her race and like her story and experience of being a white passing biracial girl, and I thought it was really interesting. And obviously from the comments and the views and the response, people really appreciated me sharing my perspective too. It's just such an interesting situation because I am black and I am white, but my whole life I've got one or the other sides telling me that I'm not white enough or I'm not black enough, which is crazy because like that's literally who I am. Imagine literally having your actual race being discussed and debated about from literal strangers your whole life. It's really not that big a deal. I'm not playing victim. Like, I'm chilling. I'm just, again, it's interesting and I like to talk about it. But like, imagine that. Imagine having literal strangers debating about what you are and what you aren't, and if you're enough of this to be called this. It's crazy. I think that that very specific situation and experience deserves to be talked about, you know, like it deserves its own space. And again, I've had a lot of mixed biracial girls and guys reach out to me from this video and appreciate me sharing it. And there's also people who are just saying, like, you know, to drop it or let it go or whatever. But I'm like, again, it's my social media, it's my space, and we talk about what I want to talk about because it's my social media. But yeah, I like talking about it, and I might just do it again. I might make another video. It's just fascinating to me.
So I made another video and then I deleted it because it was like 10 minutes long and I felt like it was way too long to get my point across. Basically, I saw the movie Sinners, and this is my take as a mixed race person that looks like this, that nobody asked for. I'm just gonna give my opinion. Being a mixed race, especially black and white, I think is the most annoying mix that you can be, especially if you live in America. Because of the history between blacks and whites in this country, it's always your blackness or whiteness is always going to be up for debate. So when you're somebody who's mixed race who looks like me, you know, when you are very proud to be black, it's always going to be a stretch. You're reaching, you're stretching, you're trying to be something that you're not. You just want to claim blackness. You just want to be black. If you're somebody who is mixed race who, you know, typically looks black, but maybe you're just closer to your white side because that's how, you know, you were raised. Maybe you don't know your black side. And then there's always going to be the argument that you're a sellout and that you don't, you know, claim to be what you are. And there's always going to be some bullshit. I'm going to talk from my perspective as a mixed race person who my hair is naturally curly. You could probably kind of tell because it was raining and my curls are trying to poke through. But I'm going to just talk about from my perspective as a mixed race person who looks like this. I look white. If you saw me, some people think I'm Latina because I have really, really curly hair. Some people, I'm half Sicilian. My father's Sicilian. So some people look at me and they can tell and they think that's all that I am, just Sicilian. But you know, when I was watching the movie and then getting online and seeing a lot of the discourse, it's talking about the one drop rule because Haley, I forget her last name, but the girl that plays, Stack's love interest, Haley, is an 8th black in real life, and there was just a whole conversation about the one drop rule and how that applies. And I'm here to just give a quick story and my perspective. My experience is you are white until you're not. You are accepted into the white community until they find out what you really are. And I think a lot of people, you know, want to say, well, that was back in the day, and I feel like it still applies to this day. In 2025, it still applies. You know, it, especially I feel like with the president that we have today, I feel like, you know, that we went through a small period of time where people were a little bit more embarrassed to be like so out and proud about their racism. But especially now with the president that we have, people are like emboldened to just be outright racist. And so I think, you know, more than ever in the more current history, like this applies right now. I remember being in first grade. And obviously I look like this. I'm very, very light skinned. So everybody just thought I was white. I lived in a predominantly white town, which is the town that my mother grew up in. And I didn't live there for very long, only kindergarten and first grade. But being in first grade, we had like these journals that we would fill out. And then like once a week, the parents would take turns coming in and like editing the journals or putting stickers in the journals or whatever. And I was so excited when it was my mom's turn to come in, you know, because you know, me and my mom were still best friends to this day. I was raised, you know, by a single parent. And so I was so excited when it was her turn to come in for journal day. Well, that was the day all the children found out that I wasn't white. They saw my mother. And, you know, when they saw my mom, they weren't like, oh, she's, you know, your mom's half black and you're just a quarter. So we'll accept ya. You get a pass. No, they just saw, they weren't taking measurements on how black I was or breaking it down. They just saw a brown, phenotypically black woman and oh, that's your mom? Oh, so you're black. And that's when like the harassment started from the white kids in class. Because even though this was the 90s, what a lot of people forget when they make the argument, well, you know, racism was back in the day and, you know, no, because hello, it's America. Like the civil rights movement wasn't that long ago. You know, there's still people alive that lived through that and their grandchildren and their children are alive and they carry that hate with them. So when you're arguing about the one drop rule, it's like that really doesn't matter to racists. They're not breaking down how black you are. If they see somebody in your family's brown, you're black, now you're one of them. you're othered and you don't count as white anymore. So that's the point that I'm making, that you're white until you're not. They would harass me at school. They would bring me, it was like these little Cabbage Patch dolls. I think you got in like a Happy Meal or something, these little plastic Cabbage Patch dolls. And they brought me the black ones because they said they were ugly. So I would want them because I'm black. So they gave me the ugly black dolls, is, you know, how they put it. They, like in books, like, you know, it's first grade. So we have books with pictures. And if there was like a black character, they would call the black character names and talk about how ugly they were and just do this in front of me to like harass me and bother me, because now I was the black kid, even though I look like this, which is really hard for people who have, you know, a deeper melanin, who are phenotypically black, to kind of wrap their heads around. It's like, well, none of that compares to what fully black people or children go through. And I'm not saying that it does. I'm not trying to be in competition. I'm not trying to compare. I'm just trying to tell my side of it from somebody who's like a one drop rule black, or a one drop black person, that we're white until we're not. And just like the character in Sinners way back in the day, even though it's 2025, it still applies to these people with this racist mentality, is they don't care how much black you are. Like when I get on the internet and I say that my mom is mixed race, you know, there's such a debate about, you know, what mixed race people are black. And it's really frustrating because, you know, you got like the Halle Berrys and the Eartha Kitts and the Lenny Kravitzes and the Shamar Moores. And even Rihanna, if you want to break it down, if you think that mixed race people aren't technically black, then Rihanna's technically not black because her dad is mixed race. You know what I mean? So it's like when you get down to all the fractions and this and that, and you're like, well, you're not even black anymore. Well, maybe to you I'm not. But to these prejudiced ass people, yeah, the one drop rule still applies. It still does. From my own experience, as white as I am. Now, my kids are even whiter because their father is Puerto Rican. They're very light skinned. You would never even think they were Puerto Rican if you saw them. You would just think they're Shannon and Seamus doing the Irish jig with Remick. That's what you would think where they belong, because they are so white. And it even applies in 2025 to them. I'm a single parent. My mother is helping me raise my children. And again, my kids are white until they're not. They're white until somebody finds out, oh, you got a black grandmother? Oh, so, you know, when they're playing Fortnite, now they want to throw out the N-word hard ER because they know that he's got a black grandmother at home that can hear it. You know what I mean? And, you know, my mom picks my kids up from school, so the kids see that my mother is black. So, again, my kids they're white until they're not. And it really sucks when the community that you feel the most connected to, which for me is the black community, when they come for you because they're like, you're reaching, you're trying, you're not black, you want to be one of us. And it's just like, well, really, it's the racist people in this country that will not let you forget that you're black, no matter how small that drop is that you have in you. You know, not that I was raised to be very proud to be black. You know, my mom she wanted me to know the true history of black Americans in this country. And she wanted me to, you know, be proud. She was reminded every day that she was black. She had an immigrant mother from Germany that could barely speak English and a very dark-skinned black father that was from West Virginia. And she was, you know, there was no getting around. She was black. She lived her life as a black woman. And she was very proud of her blackness, and she wanted me to carry that too. And she teaches my kids that too. Like, my kids they're a quarter. I mean, excuse me, they're an eighth, a 16th, whatever. But they're very proud because of how you're raised. And a lot of it has to do with how you're raised. And it's like, yeah, people always want to argue with me. Well, phenotypically, you're not black, you're a white girl. I get it. But you know who doesn't? Racist people. When they see my mom, I'm automatically othered. And they're not like, oh, Bianca, well, you're a quarter black, you know, so that doesn't count. No, because of the history in this country, and there's people still alive that feel like that, I'm already in that category, whether you like it or not. And I feel like when I posted another video about being black, people came for me and they're like, you're not black. And it was the black people that are telling me this. And I'm like, great, well, you go tell the racist white people that. Because when they see my mom's black ass, they don't take measurements on how black you are. That's just what you are. And then you're put into that category. Even in 2025. Because people are that racist still. I don't know why we're surprised. Like, we live in America. We see what's happening in our country right now. I don't know why we're surprised that the one drop rule still stands true. Because there's people that, if you have any black in you, they don't want nothing to do with you. Or they feel some type of way, or they feel, you know, it's just, and it's sad. But I'm still going to be proud to be black. regardless of whether I'm accepted or not. I was raised by a brown woman. I came out of a brown woman. You know, whether she's mixed race or not, she's still a brown woman. She's still phenotypically black. She's still living her life as a black woman. Her perspective and her whole outlook is from, you know, that of a black woman moving through this country and navigating life as a black woman. And I think watching the movie Sinners, I'm like, yeah, I got, and then seeing everything that was like people were talking about online, I'm like, I gotta get on here and put my 2 cents in, because I feel like we've come so far, but then we really haven't.
So this beautiful girl right here is going viral on Facebook right now because she says, I'm a white passing mixed girl. And baby, the comments did not disappoint. Now, first, before I get into the comments, she said, of course, my papa is black. And we knew. Then she showed a picture with her mother and we were like, we knew. It's the comments for me. Is white passing in the room with us? Because I'm tripping. Or on the, of course, my dad is black. It's that predictable. Favorite, she thinks she's married for Sinners. They said that hair is very ethnic, sis. Nice try though. White passing? No, baby. At the Klan rally, you will stand on the same side as me. May the Delulu of white passing never touch my son. Moral of the story, you not gonna play me like that, right? Oh, child. Sorry, I had to post that this morning, y'all. So this beautiful girl.
Serious question. Do I look like a white girl to you? I know I don't, but I think some of you guys are confused. I'm ethnically Trinidadian and German. Growing up in the South, people could accept that, yes, you have multiple heritages. You have this European one and you have this Caribbean one. But socially, I was never going to be considered white. And I was squarely, absolutely a black kid. In light of American history, that makes sense because black and white are social constructs that have been malleable across the centuries. What made someone black and what made someone white, it's changed. The rules of that change depending on the needs of white supremacy. And what do I mean by that? Well, you can look at different laws that were passed throughout the centuries, and you could see specifically when certain European groups of people were not considered white, and then when they became considered white when it was, say, helpful for a voting bloc. There's also all those things about like the one-drop rule where people would parse out exactly where you had an African-American relative, and then they would decide, well, one drop, you're black. And as a kid, I totally accepted this. I was, okay, I'm black. I'm a mixed black person. Recently, that has changed. Now I have people begging me to remember I'm half white, and that what I say about race or the things I write about is a betrayal to my people. I find that hilarious because socially and politically, I've never been white. That construct does not fit me. Nobody looks at me and confuses me for a Becky. Nobody goes out and treats me differently because they think I'm a white woman because of what my dad looks like. Do I get certain privileges because of I'm lighter skinned or I look a certain way or might look like my dad? Yes. But in terms of me being considered socially a white woman, no. I realize it's less about people now trying to accept me as white and more about them being uncomfortable with the fact that I'm actually embracing blackness and not embracing my blackness in a way that's anti-black, but in a way that celebrates my heritage and also looks politically and socially at the history that people like me have gone through and have decided to share it. If these people can get me to remember that I'm half white, maybe they can get me to stop thinking and critiquing white privilege. I can be proud of my European and Caribbean heritage because those are real places with real people and real narratives that all came together and are part of my story. But to be proud of my proximity to whiteness, which is a fictional construct used to consolidate power, no.
My dad is black, my mom is white. I do not identify as a black woman. Also do not identify as a white woman. Actually identify as what I am, which is biracial. You ask some, being mixed doesn't even exist. Choosing to not identify as a black woman has nothing to do with not acknowledging who I am and so much more to do with just my personal choice. There have been numerous times in my life where people just think I am a white girl. There is very few times where people have thought I was a black girl just by the way that I present. Again, I consider myself a mixed girl because that's what I am. I personally do not feel comfortable if you were to say to me, what are you? Because people do ask that question. I wouldn't feel right saying I'm black. This is not to be controversial, and I don't owe anyone an explanation, but I think this is a topic that could be talked about because a lot of people think that I'm white. I have not dealt with half of the BS that black women go through. I could straighten my hair, dye it blonde, and go on about my life and not have to deal with a lot of things that I know black women deal with. Not to say biracial people don't deal with our own shit, because that's literally why I started posting and talking about this stuff. But it's different. Gotta wash my face. I almost feel like a fraud to say I am a black woman when, I don't know if this makes sense. It's never felt right to me, and it has nothing to do with not wanting to acknowledge my blackness. Sounds silly to say, but that's just my truth. It's the same way, there's many reasons, but I don't say the N-word. Never have, never will. It doesn't feel comfortable to me, and I don't say it. It's just never been a part of my vocabulary. So I'm curious if you are also mixed, biracial, black and white, or really anything. What do you identify as? And I always struggled with this, taking standardized tests and things like that, because it would always say black, white, and there was very rarely an opportunity for 2 or more races. This is not for pity. This is just for opening conversations, because I think it's a cool and important conversation to have, because I feel like not enough people talk about stuff like this.
No one talks about growing up with the black mom and being mixed, but like being like, that is such a trippy experience. Like, my mom instilled a lot of black power into me, and it just don't match. Like, I do not have the same experience, and so talking about being mixed, I just feel like an imposter, and I just sometimes feel like I come across as like a phony, like, who just wants to join the club, but like, let me in. But it's true, I love my mom, and like, she raised me to be a strong black woman, but unfortunately my genes said
I grew up with an American mother, and while I was growing up, there was a lot of mystery surrounding her heritage. I always looked at my mother, and I always felt that I was looking at a woman who was African American. When I would ask her about this, she would not have a clear way of answering me. Somewhere along this journey of asking questions, somebody gave me a book called Passing, and it was the first time that I had heard that word, that it was something that black people did during Jim Crow in America, that they passed for many things, past white, past indigenous. After reading the book, it was clear to me that the mystery and the enigmas within my own family were because my grandfather had spent his life passing white. Passing is a novel that was written in 1929 by Nella Larson at the height of the Harlem Renaissance. Before I read the novel, I didn't have language or context for what my grandfather did. After reading the novel, I had, I think, for the first time, a true understanding of that historical context. The erasing of history, the erasing of the stories of your family that get passed on for generation to generation it's a hard decision to decide to erase that and not tell your children those stories. And reading the book gave me a greater understanding of how hard that choice must have been for him. It also gave me a framework for thinking about my own racial identity. It is not lost on me that the systems of white supremacy that forced, encouraged my grandfather to pass as white are also the systems that I now benefit from as a white presenting person. There are privileges that come with looking how I look. I cannot choose how I present, but I can choose to honor that history.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such an extent that you bleach? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Sudan, boycott diamonds and gold. Free Sudan, boycott diamonds and gold. We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.